So the first time you change one of these water filters, it might take you a half an hour, but after you get good at it, it'll take you about 5 minutes. And if you're interested in the setup I have, I made a previous video where I showed all the parts I bought, all the prices, and why I set it up the way it's set up with the different filters. So if you want to check out how I made this, check out that previous video. So let's get started. So step number one is to isolate the water in here. If I just took this off, water would be pouring out. So you want to stop water from getting to it. If you're lucky, you have 2 valves on either side. I installed a valve here and a valve here. So now there's no water coming into here. I also have a bypass valve, so we still have water to the house. So now this is isolated. There is one more step because I have an air iron filter. I close the bypass on that as well. So now no more water is getting to this section of pipe. Now you might have a filter like mine that has a valve on the top. It says filter off and bypass. You can turn this thing. I've never wanted to touch this thing. It's plastic, and when I force it, it feels like it's gonna break. So I don't touch that, and I use the butterfly valves as bypass and shut off. Now step number 2 is optional, but it is to drain the water out of this pipe system. Now I'm lucky, I have these 2 filters up here which have drains, and I can let water out of this pipe here and drain it out. If you don't drain the water out of this pipe system, when you take this water filter out, all the water in here will come out. So I'm just getting that water out through the overflow tube. And I hold down these buttons on top of these filters to let air in, so that air can come in and you'll see all this water drain out. Next, we're ready to unscrew this plastic housing. And for that, you use this circular wrench. And these are nice because you can see when the filter needs to be changed. I change these about every 3 months, but you can see all the rust we have in our water. And that's when I know it's ready to be changed. And the way to rotate it, if you're looking at it, it is from your right to your left. And that's probably a little tighter than it should have been. It shouldn't be that hard to unscrew this at first. And water's gonna come pouring out of here, so it's a good idea to have a pan or a bucket. This is an old oil filter pan to keep that under there. Even if you have a table, you can set this on to catch all that water. You see why you need the pan. I'm gonna take this now to the sink and dump this all out. And here's what that filter looks like after it's used, and you can see it's rust all the way through that filter. That means this filter has been fully utilized. Sometimes it'll be clear on the inside, white on the inside. That means you still have a little bit more life, but when it gets to this point, it's ready to be changed. Now the next step is to clean, and that includes cleaning the canister and the ring on the inside of here. There is a rubber O-ring on the inside. Take that off and clean that out. It should have grease on it. So clean that off with a rag, and then take that rag and wipe the inside of the canister and that little lip where that ring was sitting in. And you can see it's getting rid of all that rust. Now about once a year, I will use oxalic acid. So this is oxalic acid. You could buy it online for $10, $20. This gets rid of rust. So we have rust in our water, and maybe once a year I'll use oxalic acid. I'll put it in here, slosh it around with some water to really get this clean again. And finally, something a lot of people miss is you wipe the inside ring on here where that rubber O-ring was touching. Clean that off as well. Clean everything on the inside here too, because that's covered in rust also. And in case you're wondering, my setup is 100 micron, 50 micron. I put a 5 micron in here and a 1 micron in here. And I can still see there's a little bit of life left in this. These always work. You just have to clean them once a year. So those don't require any changing. The next step is to add food safe grease. So this is a food safe lubricant or grease. You want to add it to the O-ring. Put it along the O-ring. And now we are ready to install the new filter. And I keep them up here. And you can buy these in bulk. That's where you save a lot of money. If you're buying these individually, they're $10, $12. If you buy like a 10-pack, you're going to get them for maybe $7 a piece. So you add the new filter and then screw it back in. And kind of wiggle it around when you screw it in to make sure it's centered on that opening. And now the trick here is do not over tighten it. Don't cinch this thing down super tight because that will warp your O-ring. If you tighten this too much, the O-ring is going to expand next time you take it out and you have to use a new O-ring. So just get it snug, Then take your wrench and do a tiny little turn. That's it. Don't over tighten it or else you're gonna have to change that O-ring. Now it's all set, we can close these valves up here and add the water slowly back into our system, and you should see water start to come up in this filter. There it is. Valves are open, and I'll open the bypass on the air iron filter. And that's it. The only step I do is I write down the date of when I change this. So the last one was April, and this is July. So I hope this wasn't too complicated. As I said in the beginning, the more you do it, the faster you'll get at it. The first time it's a little bit slow, but you should be good to go for another 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year, depending on how dirty the water is at your house. So I hope this helps. Thanks.